I call the meeting to order, guys. Northwood School Board meeting, September 20th, 2018. Bills and manifests are being reviewed. First off, we'll do a roll call. Keith McGuigan here. Shane Wells. He's not here yet, he may be late. Amy Hanovan has told me she will not be here tonight. Brian Winslow.
I'm here.
David Ruth.
I'm here.
And for other people on the panel,
Scott Ruding, Superintendent.
Bob O'Sullivan, BA.
Jocelyn Young, principal.
and I believe we have Adrienne Alford, vice principal, hanging around. Okay. I don't think we have any agenda adjustments unless anybody has anything they want to bring up. We do have need for a hopefully short non-public session under RSA 91-A:3(2) Part C. So we need a motion to go into that.
Make a motion to go into non-public.
Second.
Roll call in. Keith McGuigan, yes. Dave
Yes.
Ruth, yes.
Yes.
Brian Winslow, yes. All right, we have to go into non-public. All right, we're back from our non-public session. No motions were made. We'll move on to opening public comment. Speak.
Yeah, I know. I'll try to. Sharon Floyd, 10 Lower Camp Road. So you guys know us as staff here and someone who lives in town, but Linda and I are also your new co-presidents for the union. So we look forward to working with you guys and just wanted to introduce ourselves as with a new hat on. So thank you. That's it.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? You're good?
Gary, do you want that back off?
Any board member like to take this opportunity to address the board?
I'd like to say I thought the open house was a wonderful event last night, and I'd like to thank the police department, fire department, and volunteers for grilling food and serving food to the public. That was very nice.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Ruth, you're all set? So, all right, we will close the public comment session then and move on to our board business. First up, is on our consent agenda, we have the approval of school board minutes for, I guess it would be September 6th, and the enrollment report.
Make a okay.
So
Motion.
So I think we can make a motion to accept the consent agenda as is, or we can take things off the consent agenda if you want to discuss them.
Are you fine?
Go ahead.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, do we have any discussion on that?
Typing is so loud. Driving me nuts, I'm sorry.
All right, so the motion is to approve the consent agenda as in our packet. Motion by Mr. Winslow, seconded by Mr. Ruth. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 3-0. All right, we're going to move on to the business administrator's report. Mr. Sullivan.
I've provided you with 3 reports. The monthly financial review, the revenue report, and some, all of the grants that are active. And there's nothing really of significance to report. Your general fund has $1.7 million in it at this point in the year, which isn't terribly meaningful one way or the other at this moment. The revenue report, again, is early enough in the year that significant chunks of revenue that you'll probably see in October, things like catastrophic aid and the state aid, are not represented yet. So nothing significant there, and really the The grant reports are just informational.
Thank you for the grant reports, by the way. I think that's
Yeah, you'll have them
it's
each
nice to
month.
see.
If you really wanted to get into the details on a grant report, there's additional reporting I can get from the state as to what the specific expenditures were and what the rationale behind them. So if you get to that level of interest, let me know.
Is there a corresponding, like, revenue side of the
Yeah, it's
grant
this.
reports?
Oh, on the grant reports?
Yeah.
I can get that, but I don't have it right now.
Okay, no, I'm just curious if that was something that,
So what we could do is print out each grant that's written, and that shows you
The
how
amount.
things were allocated, and then you compare it to the expense report. It's just, the problem right now is the grants are largely approved, but they're not loaded into the system yet, so
Right.
you'll see this grow over time, but I thought that was important that you have at least copies of your active reports, so you can start looking at them and formulating questions, and, it'll be a process getting used to having these each month for everybody.
Yep.
I just want the board to understand that you may have questions that we might need to go back and get answers for, because
Absolutely.
there's a
Yep.
lot of
The other
grants.
thing I want to point out, and Scott knows this even better than anybody, is that oftentimes the grants are over a 2-year period, so you're going to see in the packet I gave you 2016-17, 2017-18, and that covers the relevant period that these grants that we're looking at are active in. And Fred Wolf is constantly working on grant updates and things like that, and it's, like I said, early in the season.
Yeah.
Also, I want to draw your attention to the budgeting timeline, and at this point in time, the teachers are preparing their requests for Jocelyn and Adrian, and as soon as they get that part kind of moving along, and we've now generated remote access with more security to get into our budgeting system. And my office is working on the personnel side of this per the contracts, and we will soon, I'm sure, be meeting with your board and any questions the budget committees have, and so on and so forth. So it's budget season.
yep. Is everything working with the, everything working well with the remote access?
It's a learning curve for people. I mean, it works fine, but you also have to, again, kind of, it doesn't work the same way it worked before, and you now come through go to my PC,
Right.
which I guess you know better than I, Citrix based with security. And, once you're through that, then you're on to logging into the system, the servers in there. But all that's because of the denial of service attack that we experienced.
Yep. Do we have any questions?
It's nice to see the budget timeline, so thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a fun time of the year.
Of course, when's your, do you mind if I ask a question, Mr. McGuigan?
Go for it.
When's your next budget committee meeting?
It's October, I believe it's the 17th, I can double check.
And that's when they'll determine the timeline?
Yeah. Let me quickly double check then, I'll get back to you.
Yep.
Yeah, just to point out, in our new business, we do have our budget discussion for later in the meeting as well.
Okay.
Yes,
So
it
we
is,
can get
it's
back to this.
the 17th at 7 PM.
I'm sorry, what day was that?
The 17th, it's a Wednesday,
If you want to.
October?
October 17th, yeah.
One PM, you said?
7
Is that
PM.
okay? That makes more sense. Thank you. All right, well, thank you very much, then. We will move on to our principal's report.
All right, good evening. Organize myself for a second here. All right, our report begins on page 30. The first thing we wanted to highlight, we had a real focus on our opening day on emphasizing student engagement, and I want to say that our teachers have taken that challenge and run with it, and we've seen evidence of that from kids. I listed a bunch of fantastic things that we've seen so far this year, but we've literally heard the kids say things like, I'm so into my work, or can we have this class 4 more times today? Or like super excited to tell us what they're doing and working on and learning when we walk in and chat with them. So kudos to the teachers for hitting the ground running with that. And now it's your turn.
Good evening, everybody. How are we talking about? Is that on?
Oh.
Sorry. Talking about PBIS. So we have an assembly coming up September 27th. It's going to be explaining more to the kids what PBIS is and how we plan to utilize it to keep the positive energy we have going. I would tell you what our first kind of rollout is for that, but I do want to keep it a surprise for the kids. Again, the Universal team has done a phenomenal job. We added 3 more people, I believe, to it. Right, Linda? So we have 3 more people, 2 of which are, one's a paraeducator and one's a Title I. So the momentum's really gaining. The energy, that's the energy right there. But the energy we have going is phenomenal. Everybody's buying in, everybody's talking the same language. Obviously, it's still the first month, but it's been great so far. So when we have that assembly, Lieutenant Wills will actually be part of it. So more to come on that. I just don't want to spill the beans too much on that. But I have text for you still. Athletic update. Soccer teams are off to a good start. There's a lot of energy. I've seen a couple of their games going so far. And we're already have winter signups going. And we are looking into our winter coaches. So that's going pretty well at this point. Am I still going? Or no? No, I think you're good.
Technology update from Mr. Robert. He's been doing a lot with testing so far this year. We are K through 8 testing NWEA, and so he literally runs from one end of the building to the other to help troubleshoot. He also is, as you know, on the technology committee. They had their first meeting on September 13th. A big part of their charge this year will be revising the technology plan that is due. And he and I attended a meeting at the SAU with other technology directors and administrators from the sister schools to address the requirements of having a data security plan by the end of the year. So that is in the works. We wanted to request board approval for a fundraiser. One of our students and his family was recently impacted by a house fire. And so Ms. Boudreau actually had the suggestion of doing a pajama day fundraiser for students and staff. They would pay $1, probably someday next week, date to be determined, and proceeds from that would go to the family. I'm going to add one thing since we're on the topic of board approval. One of our other teachers, just in the last few days, notified me that she had done a donors choose request, and I'm going to pass it around because it was phenomenally well done. She is a kindergarten teacher, and as you may know, the Department of Ed has recently indicated that they would like us to have more of a play-based kindergarten. She attended a professional development session on that a few weeks ago and really took that idea and ran with it and did donors choose requesting some play-based material. So sand tables, dramatic play type stuff, like a toy kitchen. And she got funded within 4 days. So we would like board approval to accept that gift. And then finally, we have a facilities update from Mr. Sayers. We had planned to replace the walk-in freezer, and we did that this summer, and then the cooler decided that it felt jealous and also wanted to be replaced. So just recently, we had to replace the condenser and the compressor in the walk-in cooler. Some staff members had expressed a concern about there not really being a defined physical boundary on our upper playground between the playground and the parking lot area where the dumpsters are and where the cemetery is. And so Mr. Tom and his crew put up a orange snow fence so that now there is a physical and very visible barrier for the kids. And then he had some lights on the building and in the parking lot replaced. So those have been kind of the big ticket things that have been done. So that is all we have for you at this time. Well, no, you were going to say more. Sorry.
You go first. I'm sorry, the chair will tell you.
Age before beauty, I understand that. Open house. Those of you that attended, it was a phenomenal showing. I mean, I had to tip my hat to my colleagues and the kids for their hard work on that. Did an awesome job preparing for it. As we know, parking is a little tricky, but we made the best of that situation. Unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of area for that kind of thing. But I do want to say a thank you to Johnson's, Umami, Heritage Hardware Market, Cooper Hill, Northwood Garage, and Hannaford, because they donated to our raffle. We had a raffle with combined with End 68 Hours of Hunger. So if you're running a non-perishable food, you got a ticket for the raffle. We didn't get as many people for that this year as we have in the past. So looks like everybody will probably be a winner. Also, a big thank you to Northwood PD, Lieutenant Wells for grilling, and Chief Drolet for his grill, and Northwood Fire for helping, hand out the food. They were there early. They were prepared. It was awesome. It's great to have them part of the community anyway. So a big thank you to them. And then we had some community vendors here as well, which was Friends of Northwood Rec, right? Northwood Rec, Girls and Boy Scouts, Fresh Picks, which is obviously our food vendor, PTA plus End 68 Hours of Hunger. We had a student rep from CBNA. She was completing her senior project, a diversity book club, and so Shayla Ashley, she was part of it as well. So it was just great to have so much community involvement here, and everybody. I mean, it was a great turnout. You think you two ladies did a big sale as well with it, so it was just a great turnout. I heard saw a lot of excited kids, a lot of excited parents. So it was the best one we've had yet. So that was it.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Donors Choose donation, as well as to accept the fundraiser, the pajama fundraiser for to benefit a student here.
I'll second that, and then I have something.
All right, any discussion on that? No? All in favor? Carries 3-0.
Okay, jump in one more time, sorry, Dave. And the board members got some cute little thank yous for the money donated. There you go. Thank you for your donation.
These are from the School Ducks class.
Yes.
You may know
School Ducks class.
one or more of the children in there.
If you don't, that's concerning.
What grade did they say?
First.
First.
Yep.
I have a 24-year-old son, Jacob, but yeah, he looks like this right
I have two more, but obviously the people are not here, so.
That's great.
Sure, yes,
Okay, on the walk-in cooler, I was gonna have a question, because I thought we just spent a lot of money on, it was the walk-in freezer. My concern is, it says for repairs, and it's just a total of $2,800. I mean, if we're getting billed for $2,800, I would like to see a breakdown of what, I know they had written something here, and if you wanna try to read that, I can't read it. I'm a stickler about all the little things, and if somebody's making me pay $2,800, I'd like to have a really good report, what you did, how many hours you were spending to do this. I know it might have been an emergency, we had to call them in, but even then, that's all. Otherwise, we have to spend it. My next thing would be on the new fence that they put out there. My suggestion is that we better get a top on top of every one of those posts, because we are looking at a lot of problems, in my opinion, of doing things with baseball fences and stuff over the years. Don't have a good solution. We used to do tennis balls, and they were so easy to pull off and get thrown away. And if you buy the correct little cap that stays on there, they become expensive, and you probably got 100 posts. So, but it still has to be taken care of. The
Yeah,
top of those posts are
those
dangerous.
Wooden stakes.
No, they're the metal.
Oh,
So even after they get banged in, then they get sharper on the top, so that's all. I would suggest we figure a way to cover those post tops. Other than that?
We believe that that is already in the works courtesy
Oh,
of the
good.
PTA.
That's fine.
That was a feat.
How did I say that?
We're that quick, Dave.
Hey, I love it. Wow. I'm all set.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions for them? I just have one. If we could, being one of the 2 or 3 non-educators in the room, could you give me a quick overview of PBIS and what that entails, what that consists of, what that entails?
Positive behavioral interventions and supports. So it's a framework. And so what it is to understand that academics and behavior go hand in hand. So it's a lot of pre-teaching of the basic skills in a school. Like, so example, we're really focusing on hallway, the cafeteria, fire drills. So that way the students know what to expect, and it's all commonality throughout the school. So that way they don't go from one wing to another and it's completely different. The kids have no clue what they're doing. It's kind of a way to streamline so everybody's on the same page. So that way, no matter who's working with them or where they are, they know what the expectation is to hopefully eliminate any kind of variance of what they're going to do, so it could actually just focus on academics. Takes a lot of guesswork out of it.
It's like common vocabulary.
Yeah, and it builds up an intrinsic reward too for the students, because there's more focus on kind of the effort that they're putting in. It's not just giving out toys, or it's kind of reframing how students are getting praised for their hard work in it as well. So.
Now, is this a new system, or is this something that we've been doing for a while, and this is a refresher? Or?
So we've been building up the base of it. So there's 3 tiers of PBIS. The universal team's so the universal team works on universally how to impact everybody in the school, and then it kind of builds up. It's in a triangle. So and then it goes to like a targeted team to help the students that aren't maybe responding as well to the universal system, and then there's a even higher one out there. There's more intensive team that helps the students that might not be responding to that as well. So is it a new thing? No, but we wanted to make sure that we were doing it properly in fidelity, so that way we had a good base to build off of, and this year we felt that we were able to do that. So there will be something coming out to the whole community on that, so that they can understand that. 'Cause I don't want to just drop it and be like, here you go.
Right.
So there will be something coming out, just kind of finalizing that. Oh, I turned off my mic. That's why.
Okay.
That's why I'm
This, I think this is the one that makes funny noises when you click it in.
Just like that.
That works much better. I think I should turn yours down now.
So I guess my question is then, for like, students have been here for a few years, this is new for them? Is this?
I think with the amount of fidelity, it won't be new. It's just common language.
Okay.
So that way everybody's doing it. So that way, kids can identify patterns. So if they know one person's going to hold them one way and one's not, they're going to use that sometimes to their advantage.
Sure.
So that way it's the same language everywhere around. So hopefully it'll kind of take the guesswork out of everything, so it can really focus on academics.
This was underway when we got here. Michelle Cremoni had started that process. The school-wide behavior matrix had been developed. We revised it a little
Right, I
bit.
remember seeing that.
When we first arrived a couple years ago, we created the behavior definitions, because a really important part of being consistent for kids is adults having a consistent understanding and common understanding of behavior. Certainly, there's been an increase in explicit teaching around what the expectations are, what they look like, what some examples of them are, what some non-examples of them are. There's been a real increased emphasis on providing positive reinforcement. PBIS would recommend a positive reinforcement rate of 8 positive statements to every 1 corrective measure. That's a lot. Track how you speak to your own children sometime, and you'll realize it really is a lot. So those are the areas of focus. So they're more, but they're not new.
That's what a lot of the work over the summer was as well for the PBIS team, was to make sure that every staff member got the framework that the universal team really grinded on throughout last year and the summer, to make sure that everybody was well prepared for it. So everybody has the same paperwork in order to be on the same page.
Is it worth, and should we maybe push some of this information out to the parents to make sure, so that when the kids come home and they have the same vocabulary, the parents will understand what's going on there?
I'm just kind of fine tuning that information. I want to make sure that it's not confusing. I want to kind of tune it up so that way when it does go out, if there are any questions, I'll obviously be able to field them or anybody on the universal team. But I want to make sure that it's easy enough to understand without being too jargony. So that's what I'm tuning up right now.
All right, thank you for your explanations.
Yep.
Any other questions for our principal? All right, thank you guys very much. We'll move on to policies then. We have in our packet, starting on page 32 is our cover sheet for policies. We have 3 policies for first reading and 3 policies here for second reading. The policy committee meet recently to put these on? Do you want to,
No, that was 2
weeks ago?
weeks ago, is that correct? No meet again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was just.
So let's just,
That's right, Mr. Winslow joined.
I was there.
yes. Do you want to lead us through this then?
No, I do not.
Okay. Then we will just continue on and say, I will do it one by one then, because I may have a few questions. So I would like to motion that we move the student conduct policy JIC to second reading.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on this? I do have a question as to, it seems like this is a wholesale rewriting of this policy, so what's going on? On page 33 in our packet.
Yeah. So this is a new model policy from the School Boards Association. And I believe if we turn,
I think there's a note at the back of it.
there is, on page 43. Would you like me to read that?
No, I can read. I guess.
No, I just didn't know if you want me to read it into the camera.
If you would like to, go for it.
Well, give me 2 seconds.
So I mean, basically, I guess the information I was looking for is this is just a new model policy, and we're adopting the.
It's updated.
The new model.
Right, it's just updated to track the language in the RSAs.
Okay.
Includes a provision relative to the discipline of children with educational disabilities, which needs to be followed under the New Hampshire rules and IDEA.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of times when we change the policies,
Right.
they are minor modifications. This is just a,
Right, well,
rewrite-
this one was
rewriting of.
updated in 2017, and I don't know if it was updated then per your policy, and then again in 2018.
The last time we revised it was in 2013, so it has been a number of
Yep.
years. Yeah,
And you revised it off of a 2011 recommendation.
gotcha.
Go way back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, your name's on here too. Dave, you should tell us about this since you were here.
Oh, yeah. You know what I tell you? Adopt what the state, the school boards are doing, because you'll save us all a lot of time and aggravation.
Okay, I'm satisfied. Any discussion on this? Any discussion? All right. We have a motion to move this to second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have 2 others to move to second reading. Policy JICD, the student discipline and due process, and policy JRA, student records and access.
Second.
I'll move, yeah, motion to move them to second reading, seconded by Mr. Ruth. I think there was a question, is this the one where we had the question about what verbiage on, in policy JICD, student discipline and due process, part D, 2, on page 41 in the packet.
Yeah, there's a big note about who we put in there and whatnot.
Yep, there's, on part D, part 1 and part 2, we have a blank with, we need to assign the.
Yeah, so the way, let me just read this and I'll tell you the current process that you use.
Yep.
All right, so I am authorized to suspend a student for up to 20 days. Your building principal is authorized to suspend a student up to 10 days.
With your approval? Superintendent's approval?
Well, that's,
Well, they call it consultation. So the consultation consists of every year an administrative team. I issue them a letter of authority, giving the ability to suspend a student up to 10 days.
Okay.
They, in turn, provide me a Google document when that incident has occurred, and I track that. And then if I feel that there's an issue with the rate of suspensions or the length of suspensions, then we sit down and consult and talk about that. In addition to that, when Ms. Young and Mr. Alford are presented with a unique situation, it is standard protocol for them to call me and for me to most likely come down and we talk through the issues. I can give you an example. It used to be when we were in school that if two students had a physical altercation, there was equal consequence. And with potential for disability-based harassment or bullying, sometimes we need to walk through what the mitigating factors are and differentiate those consequences and intervention based on the specific act and dynamics between the students. So we talk, I would say, not too much, maybe once this year so far about a unique situation. So that is what you do. And then after 20 days, it comes to you. So that's aligned to state law. So
right, so,
I can adjust that language.
right, so what I think we're gonna do then, right, is for, in Part D, Part 1, it will read short-term suspensions. The building principal, as a designated superintendent, is authorized to suspend a student for 10 days, school days or less. The principal shall consult with the superintendent prior to issuing any suspension.
Yep.
Right, and then in Part 2, we would write the superintendent
Yep.
is authorized to continue the suspension and issue a long-term suspension of pupil for a period of excess 10 days, so on and so forth.
Yep, I can adjust that language.
And then the lower paragraph there, the superintendent is here. I just need to
Yep.
get rid of that.
Yep.
Makes sense to you guys?
It does.
Okay.
Can we go back, just questions about practice, back in, well, this is on page 40. I think it's section A, part 3, and this was the 10 days. My question was, if there's a student, is there any, if a student's repeatedly getting 10-day suspensions, is there any kind of moval to, would that warrant a longer suspension even for the same offense, say? Let me rephrase that question. So if we are, the principal's authorized to suspend a student for 10 days, if there's a student who's going on their third or fourth 10-day suspension, due to the frequency, is that a factor that could lead towards a longer suspension?
You mean, is the discipline system progressive?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for wording it.
Right. So, yes, we have lots of conversations about progressive discipline. I think our joint philosophy is that sometimes kids make mistakes. And so the first offense and the consequence is going to be X, and then the second time it might be 2X, and the third time it might be 3X. I would also say if there's a pattern of students not in school because of suspensions, that there's other interventions we need to employ, such as meeting with the parents. All students have a reentry meeting upon return, but we can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again
That's what
and
I was hoping,
expecting
yeah.
different results.
Yes.
On the other hand, The principal has the responsibility to maintain the decorum and order of the school.
Yep.
And so safety is a big issue, but my expectation is that any of our schools are using a progressive system that has taken the opportunity to teach the expected behavior, and then holding students accountable for that behavior in an effort to maintain a safe and productive learning environment.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
My second question was Part B. This has to do with teachers removing students from the classroom. I was just curious as to current practice, as to what the threshold is for working with a student in a class before they're removed. I know different teachers have different approaches and tolerance levels with the adoption of PBIS. Is this something that we should put in policy as at least one attempted intervention before they're removed? Or is this something we should still feel is totally at the discretion of a classroom teacher? And then my second part of that is there currently a requirement to contact parents when a student's removed by a teacher from a classroom? Or some kind of notification to parents or guardians when a student's been removed?
So there's removed from a classroom and there's removed from a classroom.
Right.
Sometimes kids certainly just need a different location. So they might be removed from the classroom but go work in the counselor's office, go work in the special ed room, come down to the office and work quietly at a table down there.
Sure.
In many of those instances, parents are notified, but no, not all.
Okay.
There are other situations where students are aggressive, disruptive, loud. In those cases, they are removed as quickly from the classroom as possible. That's considered a major behavioral incident, and yes, parents are advised.
Wonderful. Do we need, do you feel the language covers that appropriately so that practice is in policy, or do we need some adjustment?
Ms. Young, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you use an office discipline referral form?
Of course we do.
Does it list out the minor offenses and the major offenses?
Of course it
And who
does.
intervenes when?
Yes.
So no.
Okay. That's one thing, I appreciate it.
Anything else on either of these? Okay, so, find my cover page again. So our motion is to move the policy JICD, student discipline and due process, and policy JRA, student records and access dash FERPA, to second reading. If there's no more discussion on that, I will vote now. All in favor of moving this for second reading?
Okay.
Motion carries 3-0. Okay, we have 3 other policies that we saw at our last meeting. Policy DJE, bidding requirements, policy JJIB, interscholastic athletics, and policy JJIC, eligibility for school athletics. I will make a motion that we adopt these 3 policies.
Second?
Any discussion on these? I would like to point out, I guess, that the eligibility for school athletics does not match with what we have in the handbook as of now. I don't know, it's obviously, we already have the handbooks already out, but that may be something we want to look into for next year is adjusting the student handbook based on these policies, because they do say different, pretty radically different things right now.
So you're in a great situation. So you're adopting a policy.
Yep.
So the procedural check for the administration is you can direct me to direct them to align their regulations to your policy, and then bring it to review, and then you have a way of publicizing it, and then we can send it out to
Okay,
parents
so we wouldn't be
as they're
stuck
done.
with it for the.
Exactly, yeah, you wouldn't.
Yep.
So, I would ask me to do that, and I'll ask them to do that.
All right, well, perhaps after the policies are adopted, we might do that.
Yep.
All right.
Prepare yourself.
Is there any other discussion on this? All in favor of adopting these policies as written?
Aye.
Aye. Policies are adopted. Does the school board wish to direct the superintendent to,
Mr. Rooney, would you please work with the administrative team to align the student handbook with the policies?
Absolutely.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
thank you. I don't think we need to vote on that. Okay. policies done. Any other fun policy stuff coming up in our?
Well, we did some adjustments to the community access to school buildings policy. We didn't put those on this agenda because I thought you had enough. And then we need to meet in 2 weeks, so there'll be a scheduling.
Are we gonna make it like a certain, it's always the first meeting? Normally, it would always be the first meeting.
Correct.
We will have it, okay.
Right, because Mr. Byrne, as part of his practicum, will be taking over policy committee, and that's the meeting he's here for, so it'll be a standard
All right.
right before the first meeting. Does that work for the?
No, it works for me, I just wasn't,
Yeah, I mean, it certainly works for us.
it works for you first.
Well, I mean, I'm not officially on the committee, but I did appreciate showing up, and as long, I can be there. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we put you on the committee.
Technically, you're not allowed to do that.
He has to appoint.
I do appreciate, I appreciate the conversation, a part of the committee, and I would be willing to offer myself as a substitute in the event that you can't be there.
I think we're
And
allowed to,
I
aren't
will-
we?
I'm allowed to.
Oh, you, I didn't know you were on it.
I'm hesitant to commit myself to that every month, though. That's,
All right.
you know, if
Who
need be,
kicks
I
you
can.
off then?
I haven't been on for a
Or
few
who
years.
takes you off?
Right.
No, it's just technically for committees, the chair needs to, it's like the superintendent needs to nominate teachers. The chair needs to appoint for committees with the approval of the board.
Right.
It's just-
The board chair appoints, the board affirms.
Right. Just like,
Okay.
just like with the
Sounds
teachers.
different than what we used to do, but that's
Yeah.
fine with me, I don't.
That's what's in the
it's easy.
policies, at least.
Right.
I reread all the B policies recently. So you're not interested in doing that?
I'm interested in attending some of the times.
Okay. So I think the meetings are public? They should be posted, right?
They're right
They're
here.
posted and
Right,
they are
right.
public.
So anyone can attend, and
Right.
you're
Yep.
more than welcome to.
Right, it's a meeting that occurs in public.
Yep.
It's not a public meeting. So
Yes.
I understood, yeah. I understood.
anybody's welcome to watch.
Can I just ask if, what the community access policy, what we're doing with that? If you don't have it, okay, that's fine. And it's kind of out of the blue.
We did some proposed work with key access during the athletic season for the rec director, and some minor changes.
I think there was a little bit about defining the contact piece and who's notified
Right.
and who makes decisions. Which I think was there, but I think we firmed it up a little bit.
We're trying to balance your,
Oh, yeah,
we're
this
trying to
is-
balance your strategic goals.
Yep.
Of
That's why I was
making
asking,
the
yeah.
school, the center, you know, a resource for the community.
Yep.
With security.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
facilities.
we had rich and lengthy discussion from the administration of the board members and
I suspect at the board level, we'll continue to have that discussion when it comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good.
and I think that we struck a good balance.
Great, okay.
So that's what's coming
I will
to.
be patient and wait for it then. All right, any other policy stuff we have to do? Anything else to do? Nope, we'll move on from policies then. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay,
Mr. Rennie.
and if I can just go off script for a minute, I wrote thank you letters to Cavaretta Gardens, Northwood Garden Club, and D.L. Daco and Sons for their help with the grounds.
Thank you.
Fair with that.
Mr. McQuiggan requested that I do that, so I will send those out tomorrow. At the last meeting, when the board was having
Need
this.
me to sign them?
No. Well, actually, I wrote them on behalf of you, and then I signed them.
Okay,
If
that's
you
fine.
would, I mean, I
No.
generally don't write letters for people,
That's fine.
but I did give it on behalf. Last meeting, you had a discussion about the strategic plan, and I thought we could all use a little more structure when we have those discussions. So I have prepared and checked with Jocelyn, and I'll give this to you and put it in your next packet. This is just for you to review. It's a planning checklist that the administration and the different people involved in implementing the strategic plan can use to evaluate whether things are in place, partially in place, or in process, and what the priority is. And then we can work with the board on letting them use that to evaluate the benchmarks in your strategic plan.
Thank you.
So
This is
that was
great.
that was
Yeah.
just finished today. I just thought I'd bring it, and then we'll put it in your next packet.
Thank you very much. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so let me just write down what I need to do. Thank you. Planning checklist. Next, packet. Your first adequacy payment came in with two different lines, one for your adequacy payment and one for your kindergarten money. So,
Already?
that's what they call it. So, I don't have the total in front of you, but I have verified per the Department of Ed's request that that first payment came in as described earlier. It'll come in at a rate of like 30, 30, 20, 20 in some order, just like your adequacy money comes in throughout the year, but you are getting your kindergarten aid in addition to your adequacy money.
Do you know any ballpark?
Yeah, I want to say 20, somewhere.
20, so 20 total?
Yeah, so what happens is, they had to base the, when did you implement full-day kindergarten, do you remember?
Last year.
So, they based your, initial payment off the 16-17 ADM, right? So, and then if you went full-time, that will go up, it's $1,100 per student.
Right, we have
So-
about 40 students.
Right, so what will happen is that will adjust again, once the beginning of the year is done on October 1st. They will up and use the next year's number, which will have you in full day, and then your payment will increase.
That was 1,800 a student.
It's $1,100 a student.
No, because I thought it was half the adequacy.
You still get half the adequacy in your adequacy payment. So you still get
Oh,
your
okay, so
half
it's eleven-
adequacy,
okay,
and then you
plus
get an
$1,100
$1,100
plus-
kindergarten aid on top of that. Yeah.
And then plus Keno, or is that just?
That's Keno, kindergarten.
That's
aid.
Keno. Oh, okay, so it's 1,100 came in just from
Right.
Keno.
That's from like half the house.
1,100 per student will come in just
For
from
Keno.
Keno.
That's fine.
And
That's better
it'll
than I thought.
adjust,
Okay,
it'll
yeah.
adjust again
Yeah.
as soon as the beginning of the year is done.
That's great.
I've pulled your
It's
advice.
much more than I expected. I didn't think I didn't think we were gonna get any
I
money
pulled your
from Keno.
advice remittance and, checked it, and the money's coming in, and I've checked it off the original email that said what it'll be, and it aligns, I just don't have it in front of me.
Yep.
So I just thought I'd update you about that.
Thanks.
So I did thank you letters. I don't know if I've done this, but I need to let the board know that I've been in the building quite a bit lately. And I have to applaud, the efforts of the staff when it comes to student behavior in the hallway, and student behavior in the classroom. How nice it is to walk into a kindergarten room and see the pre-teaching of the expectations for manners at lunch, especially when they're having finger food with sticky syrup. And to see that pre-teaching of behavior expectations occurring. Additionally, to watch the lower primary grades and the teachers strategically placed in the hallways during transition time, specifically from the cafeteria recess back to the classroom, and the nonverbal training and using signs to teach the kids what level voices they can be, and to watch a teacher posted up near the fourth grade ring talking to the younger students about the fourth grade's working and we need to keep quiet in the hallways. In addition, over the years, I've been in your 7th and 8th grade hallway, which can be your,
I used to call it the gauntlet.
yeah, yeah. For me in the past, I always felt, if I'm feeling a little anxious up here, I wonder how everybody else is feeling. But to see the change in the hallway behavior in the 7th and 8th grade, and to see your teachers out there invested and working as a team, and your students responding in amazing fashion. And I come back frequently to see if they're just trying to trick me, like if they put some notification procedure that I'm walking in the building and everybody but no, it's pretty consistent. And your staff is engaged in working as a team that I have not seen in the past.
Thank you for the update.
Yep. And then, Now we'll go back to the agenda, and I have a personnel report on page 62.
Would you like to make the nominations?
Yes, I'll nominate Mary Lou Hendricks, Sue Hermano, Megan Robertson as guest bus monitors.
So moved, is that?
I'll make the motion to elect.
I'll make the motion to elect.
Go ahead.
Second?
Any discussion on these? Yeah.
Explain to me what a bus monitor is, or what they're gonna do, and how they get started. Do they
So we
drive-
have students who are identified through special education, who have written into their individualized education plans that they require supervision and support while being transported. Ms. Boudreau is actually our primary bus monitor, and is a veteran at it. How many years? A long time. So these are the other paraprofessionals who fill in when Ms. Boudreau is unable to do it. We do provide a bus monitor training. That was something that Adrian worked with the NEC lead teacher to provide last year, and we plan to provide it annually.
Right, so we don't have a bus monitor jumping on the other 6 or 7 buses?
No,
or-
it's just for
okay.
the,
These are guests. The guests threw me off. Sub bus monitor.
we're trying to get out of the use of the
I
word
know,
substitute.
but that's what threw me off.
And I think in previous years, you had, like 6 years ago, you had a fair amount of bus monitors.
Okay.
And- Yeah. Yeah, right, so.
I guess the guest threw me off, like.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. It's the new jargon. Any other discussion on this? All in favor of this?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
And then you have nominations for some stipended positions for Samantha Garley and Jody Labrie as the 8th grade co-advisors.
Can I,
We don't need
motion to elect?
We don't need to,
Oh,
for stipends, they're informational, so.
thank you.
But please pass on our gratitude that they were stepped up to do this.
Security grant update. The commission met today. They will update the website tomorrow, and I will send an email out to the board letting you know if your security grant has been approved when I get that information from the DOE.
I thought it was gonna be decided today.
They decide tomorrow, today, they post tomorrow. I checked it right before we had the meeting. So, I'm hoping to send you a Good News Friday email.
That'd be great.
Hoping. Just for your information, so you know that a busy legislative session has a tendency to make a busy year for us. So on page 66, I've just given you a piece of information that shows what bills we're going to have to, what law changes or bills are going to initiate a local policy review. So, as Ms. Young mentioned about data security, a meeting with the tech directors across the SAU. I brought all the tech directors and building administrators together at the SAU along with our part-time tech person, and had them form a work committee over the year to take a look at what framework they would use to implement this. And as recommended policies come out and more guidance comes out from the various entities, the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, the New Hampshire School Boards Association, and I'm hoping for a technical advisory from the Department of Ed, will be poised to develop that template, and then each of the school tech directors and principals can bring it back to their buildings and then make local adjustments based on local usage. And then, at the same time, we'll bring you a policy updating that. That's a pretty sweeping change. So that's what we've started to work on, and I'm hoping that the fall update will be out tomorrow or Monday from the New Hampshire School Boards Association, and that will give us templates to address those things. In addition, I went to the commissioners' meeting where all the superintendents across the state and the commissioner meet once a month. I go to that, and that second document, well, that first and second document all came out of that meeting. So I've really just put that in your packet for your knowledge and development. Okay?
It's good reading.
Oh, yeah. And then, on page 96, on page 96, you had correspondence that was opened at the last meeting by Chairman McGuigan, and a brief conversation I wrote at the top, next agenda, and it's in your packet. I've left you a letter, and then the proposed resolutions for consideration for the 2019 New Hampshire School Boards Association Delegate Assembly. It's not required that you have a resolution, I just put this in your packet, so if you wanted to, we could get it down and off to who needed to be there.
Yep.
So, it's up to you.
I think Mr. Wells is officially our delegate for NHSBA.
So why don't I put this back in here for the next meeting?
Sure. Yeah, well, this would be good for, in case somebody, but nonetheless, as a board, we can put forth proposals for resolutions to the NHSBA, so, like, you know, they have a number of guiding principles, and as we are a member of them, we can contribute to those guiding principles. So if you guys have any, you know, go to their website and take a look if you see something that you want to change or whatever, we can make that request, and then it will go up for vote when they have their delegate meeting.
So I'll put this in the agenda, and I'll put this in the packet next time, probably the time after, because then your deadline will be close.
Yep.
Just as a reminder, if you want to do that. The next thing I have for you, and I might have already passed it out, is the DOE 25. And then I have the corresponding document, which is the MS 25. It's a little shorter. The MS is what gets filed with the DRA, and the DOE 25 is what gets filed with the DOE. I will let you know that I don't think it's any surprise we had some challenges this year, turning over staff at the SAU and having somebody out on medical leave and having new auditors. These are due September 1st. I worked with the auditors on finding an independent accountant to help Mr. O'Sullivan work through the DOE 25 and MS 25, because previously you had submitted these forms unaudited. We were able to gather enough information from the auditor, in which I'm presenting you two forms that I believe have increased integrity. I'm wondering if, and I want you to take those copies with you, and I would like it if people could come into the SAU and sign those face sheets, which you don't have, I have separately, in the next day if you could, or tonight if you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, please let me know. You are signing under that, to the best of your knowledge, these are accurate, and I will sign them and submit them. The other piece of business that needs to be taken care of with that is you need to determine your retained fund balance. So if you look at either the MS or the DOE 25 on page 1, if you follow the first column, you'll see a number 227,991. That is the maximum amount that you can retain per your warrant article that you passed years ago that said you can retain up to 2.5% a year. I'll remind the board that the selectmen, the town manager emailed me saying that the selectmen were planning on not retaining this year to offset taxes. So I thought you might like that information. But the board needs to determine what they want the retained fund balance to be. The max number's in there right now. If you reduce that, we'll take that, get it off to Mr. Egan from the auditors, and Mr. O'Sullivan make those adjustments and have them ready in the morning.
We suggested $100,000. We're waiting for one of us to suggest we take $100,000 off.
I think that's really up to the board,
Yep.
on
we can
what
do
you
that.
do.
Well, I'll make a motion, and then we can discuss it.
Yep, sure.
I'll make a motion that we take $100,000 off of line 32 on assigned fund balance retained, and that would now become
100,000 less.
127,991.
Okay, that's on the MS-25 form.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on that?
This is I think, in an effort to keep a fairly stable tax rate.
Yep.
As we had discussed.
That's one of our goals for the year, was to keep an eye on our tax rate and try to stabilize it, so. All in favor of making that?
All right.
I-
Right. Motion carries. So these will have to be adjusted, and then we'll have to sign them.
Yeah, we already adjusted them by hand right now, but we'll adjust those in the morning and print them up, and then so when you come into the SAU, what you will see is this for the MS-25, and the document you have behind it with the change. Please verify that the change is there. And then you'll see this, same change, on the same page, just a thicker packet, more detail for the DOE. And then, once the school board chair signs, I will sign, and then the board members can sign. And then we will take those and upload them, and,
So if you could
Be done.
maybe send out an email to everyone on the board when the documents are ready.
Yeah, because we need all 5, right?
it doesn't say how many you need.
We didn't last year.
No, you had 3 last, here, wait, hold on.
We had 4 last year.
Think-
Yeah, it's-
well, I
You
think
had,
It looks better to have
in
5.
the past, I'm
you
pretty sure.
had,
We would go.
you had the chair,
That's what happened last year.
you had the chair, the superintendent, and 3 board members.
Right, so that's what I just, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that you?
No, I'm the
No,
chair.
that's you. Who's that?
Actually,
I don't know.
Shane.
I think it's Shane.
And then, yeah, so you had 3 last year.
4, really.
Yeah, in
Right,
addition
4
to
with the chair. I apologize.
Yeah. So yeah, just send, just like the paycheck warrant, send it, let us know when it's ready, and we'll come in and,
I'll make that change first thing.
thanks. And I encourage us all to try to get and do this, because it's already overdue, so.
Young, I know we have an 8:30. Can you just put a tickler on me at 8:30 to say, hey, send that email out if I forget? It's a figurative term.
Keith, you have to sign this first, right, before I'm allowed to sign it?
No, you can sign it.
Okay. I mean, I work far away, so in the interest of the SAU staff, I can be there like at like 7:30, but I don't know.
Directly from here back to the office, and I'll make the change.
I mean, the other option is I can be there at a little bit
I mean-
after 4.
I mean, it's not gonna be filed tomorrow anyway,
can we
right?
sign now?
Oh, no, if we
Well,
have it
'cause we
signed,
changed it.
if we have it signed tomorrow, Mr. O'Sullivan will upload it tomorrow
Okay,
afternoon.
all right, if that's what you guys wanna do, I can be.
So you're
in
thinking
tomorrow.
7:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I can go on my way to work.
Right, because you can just change that in the spreadsheet.
Give me, write your name down and I'll practice tonight.
Catch me before you go. All right?
I mean,
Not about this, just about something at the
that's
SAU.
just in an effort to make things easier on the staff. If people don't mind sticking around until a little after 4, but I know it's a Friday and hours in
Yeah,
at 4.
7:30, Mr. O'Sullivan said he'll be there, and Mrs. Lee will be there too.
No, I'm gonna go tonight.
Oh, and then just leave it up front.
Right.
That means someone will be.
Right,
The office
Mrs.
open.
Lee will be there at 6:30.
Oh,
I won't, but I'll be there by 7:30.
Yeah, and would you mind leaving her a note on her desk that Mr. Winslow will be there in case she has the door locked?
Thank you.
All right.
and, yeah, definitely call or email me, I may forget. So,
Oh, I know where to find you.
All right.
Yeah, you're good.
I got nothing.
Another
I'm
Ziegler?
much less interesting than I sound.
I'm not gonna tickle you.
We're moving on.
All right, let's go back to the agenda, please.
I can't hear this.
All right, you have anything else for your report?
I think I've covered it all,
You
thank
have
you.
covered it all. Do we have any questions for the superintendent?
Nope.
Don't
Thank
fool
you.
me like that, Mr. Rue. All right, thank you very much for your report. We'll move on to new business. First thing on our list here is to schedule the public hearing. This is the public hearing we were planning to have in regards to the SRO.
Yes.
Do we have all the materials available, ready for?
From the last meeting, I believe that
we did, right?
Mr. Byrne had emailed that information to Mrs. Hanneman.
Okay. So
And
we
she's
probably
not
do.
here, so I assume. it's ready.
So do we want to, what's the board want to do? Do we want to schedule the public hearing now?
I'd prefer to hear from Ms. Hanneman about what her message is, what she's put together before we make a date. I certainly don't want to push it back too far, but I just want to make sure we've got our ducks in a row before we schedule.
Yeah, I would rather wait, but my question is Mrs. Hanovan doing it all, or are we as a board gotta go over it and?
Well, I think we'll, as a board, we'll go over all that stuff. But setting a date, it doesn't have to be ready before we set the date either. We could set the date now and move on, but if we want to wait for, I have no problem with that. I was actually thinking that because November is a 5-week month for Thursdays. So maybe like the last Thursday in November might be a decent time to do it.
Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving.
Week
Except
after.
Yeah, except Thanksgiving's in.
The fifth Thursday is not Thanksgiving.
Right,
Right,
it's the
so-
week before.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
The 28th is,
That'll look cool.
So I don't know if that would just be, I don't know if we could do it here. I don't know how much interest there's gonna be. If we could, use all the chairs here, is that gonna be too few and should we be in the gym? It's hard to tell, right? I don't know. So those are the kind of things we have to figure out. And if we do schedule it for some time like that, what is gonna be on the agenda? What
Right.
are we gonna do? And what I was thinking was just having perhaps, this is the State of the Union, this is what we had done, this is where we are, this is where we're gonna go, and then just let the people talk, I guess, right, and listen more than anything else.
Well, I have no problem setting a meeting. I think that's good, because you can always cancel a meeting, then all of a sudden announce we want to meet next week. But that said, I think we gotta be a lot of preparation and a lot of
Right.
information for us
Right,
before.
and if it's at the end of November, that's, 2 months from now, we should have time. But we don't need to do that, I mean, it's only September 20th, right? If we want to wait and make sure Ms. Hanovan and Mr. Wells can make it at that time too, we could easily do that at our next meeting on the 4th.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Okay.
so I'm gonna put scheduled public hearing back on the next agenda, but I
Yes.
also wanna get in touch with Ms. Hanovan if somebody could, and ask her if she could do a dry run of the presentation so you folks can see it.
Yeah,
Because
she-
the presentation should be done. Would you like to do that? or-
yeah, I have no problem doing it,
Okay,
yeah.
and
yeah.
then we'll.
I mean, we
set up-
can do that, she can just send us. the
Or she can just
copy.
send it to you.
Right.
Yeah, we don't, all right, I'm gonna take it off
I mean,
here.
if it's I imagine it's gonna be,
Yep.
3 or 4 slides, probably, right? And,
I think it's a bit more than that.
I mean, for the public hearing, though, I don't think we need to do too much. We should just say
Well,
where we are and what
Right.
it's been, and
So I
then,
think you're gonna have the opportunity to do that when you see the presentation, you're gonna decide if it's an appropriate amount or if it needs to be less.
Yep.
Or more.
so it's, yeah.
So if possible, then are we going to have a presentation from Mrs. Hanovan, or ask her if we can get that on the
We
next
can-
agenda?
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda. So schedule in material review,
I would say draft presentation.
draft, yeah.
Wonderful, good.
All right, next up, we were set to have a discussion about blizzard bags. Ms. Hanovan had requested that, unfortunately she's not here for it. Has there been any, you guys? I know you had some opinions on that, I don't know if there's been any discussion.
I do have opinions on blizzard bags, but there's been no discussion because we're waiting to
I
have a
would wait for
discussion.
Mrs.
here.
Hanovan, that was her request.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna push that to our next meeting too, then?
Yeah, and I'm gonna add in there, we're gonna have Mr. Byrne
That's probably good to have him here for
bring
that.
you the Rochester procedure and policy. Rochester uses a hybrid method. Every 2 days, one's a blizzard bag, the other is you make it up. So that might be something we're seeing.
Okay.
We could have perhaps maybe at the same time, a review of what the laws are for the, 180 days versus hours versus how that all works. Would that be a reasonable thing to include?
Hours
Like-
versus days.
Right.
Yeah, so I need to do 2 sets, so I'll have to do K to 6, K to 5, 6 to 8. There's
Oh, is there
different hours. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know that's
No,
work.
that's, well, I think, I probably have past hour, every year as the assistant superintendent, I calculate the hours in case we ever had to have that discussion, so I can probably find those spreadsheets pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't need I'm not
Well, I
looking
might
for
as well
exact
give you one.
details, but like, what is it in general? Like, is it,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah,
what
I
the
can do that,
guidelines
but I
were?
can also give you a sample of what the details
Yeah,
will look
that'd be
like,
great.
because I think I have them. And
Great.
if I don't, I won't, so,
Alright.
all right?
Yep.
All right.
Anything else on that? We'll move on to our, yep,
Can I ask for something on the next agenda?
Sure.
Or in a future agenda? Two things. One would be the town birth reports for probably the last 5 to 8 years. We're gonna go into the budget season, and then we're also gonna calculate all these classrooms for the next year. And we always seem to have a problem, how many kids are coming to kindergarten. I'm looking at these numbers this year for kindergarten. For me personally, 20 is like high, when other classrooms are in 12 and 14.
Right.
So I would think that that might help us. And I don't need it next week, or, I mean, we get a couple months before we really have to have that.
so what, I'm sorry, just to
In other words,
clarify, what are you
the
looking
town
for?
records all the births every day, and they should be.
Yeah, they do.
So
It's in the
that
town
we would
report.
know how many
Town
kids were
report.
born January 1st, 17 to January 31st, and we could calculate when they're gonna be in school, and just give us a rough idea.
So can we just grab the town report from 5 years ago and grab, look into that?
Yeah, but I don't know how many years they do. I haven't seen the town, I haven't looked at the town report in a long time, so. Yeah, I know they put it in, they have so many years, but,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm saying 5 to 10. If they only have 5, maybe we could have to figure out. That's all. No, I don't wanna make a big
Yeah,
project,
but
but-
what you're trying to get at is you want to estimate the number of kindergarten students coming in, right?
and we
So-
might be able to calculate how many people moved into town, in a sense, with kids. I would just,
Oh,
I think it would help us. We're trying to figure it out, and when kindergarten was proposed, there was a big concern of a lot of people is, are we gonna have enough with 2 teachers? And so,
I think we have, yeah. well,
okay, so I just,
40 something right now,
again, I don't need a big discussion on it, I just think the numbers would help us.
Can I offer an idea on that?
Sure.
So, your births in town are definitely a good piece of information, but there's other information that you need to consider when you're doing an enrollment projection, the number of building permits issued. Also, interestingly enough, if you go back to when we had an economic downturn, you'll see a decrease in the birth rate, generally.
Yeah.
And as economic conditions improve, you'll see a corresponding increase. I might like to bring you information on NESDEC, which is New England Secondary Education Consortium. They offer a program with membership, and your first year's membership, I think, is $643, and then eventually it goes up to double that. As part of that, they collect the data and do an enrollment projection each year for you on what your enrollments will be, and they also do a special education analysis, and then offer you various professional development opportunities at a reduced rate. One of your sister districts does it. They're about to get, as of October 1st, when we have the enrollments, those will be sent off, and then those reports will be calculated. A lot of districts use that information for exactly that purpose. So you might want to consider that in the future.
Okay, I'm not a big, okay.
It's just a little more scientific. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, okay.
I mean, I've done things like take your rate of identification in preschool and multiply it
That's
by
what
your
I was
rate of
wondering.
non-identified,
Yeah, yeah.
and, you look at those numbers, and just
This would be-
sometimes they're pretty on, and sometimes they're just not.
Probably
The
good.
suggestion about building rates were, building permits and all that,
Yeah.
where I live, they built 9 houses, and after all 9 were done, we had 3 kids in the whole school system, from all the grades. Now they've sold 2 of those houses, so maybe that's going up, but you
Right.
can get an idea,
Right.
just so we can make
Yeah,
a
keep-
calculated,
you know what, Dave,
yes.
What we'll do is,
Yep.
we do have a budget, our future.
When we schedule a budget, yeah.
No, I mean, we have a future agenda item, so let's
Yeah.
throw that on there when we
Yep.
get to that part, but for now, we'll do the budget discussion.
Okay. And the other, future,
No, we'll get to that. Let's
Okay.
do budget discussion there, then we can talk that.
no, I had one thing I wanted to ask to put on the agenda, another
Yeah, we haven't got to
item.
that yet. It's right here. Future agenda is part J. Right now, we're
Okay,
on.
that's what I told you this earlier. You tell me
We're
to
on-
shut up when you
We're on
wanted.
G, right, we're on G.
Because that's on the back page, I haven't got that far
We'll get
yet.
there, we'll get there. So we're due to have our budget discussion first, and then we'll get to that.
Yep.
Our budget discussion, if I recall correctly, we were tasked as board members to come forward with some basic guidance, or whether we want to give guidance, or how we want to proceed with the budget. Did we want to, we've done it in multiple ways in past years. I think sometimes we've given guidance as to saying we want it around here. Other times we've said, let's see what you have, and then review that. So this discussion was kind of to decide that. What does the board want to do for the budget preparation? Do we want to give them the administration, some guidelines that we'd like them to shoot for? Do we want to just wait, let them do their requests, and then have it come to us and look at it? Any ideas on those?
I mean, the only guideline I can really think of is it's a goal of the boards to have a relatively stable, flat tax rate. So just with, that's more than just what's proposed in a budget, by the school, but
Right, yeah, that's true.
it's a very loose general guideline then in that way, but.
Right.
Well, if that is a goal of the board to keep it, then you're almost saying, I want to come in with a zero increase, or you got to say 1 or 2% at the most.
Yeah, I mean,
And I've done both ways over the years, and no way works better than any other way. I mean, you
Yeah.
still have to go over the budget, and if they feel they need something, then they've got to make that, convince the board that this is something that's worth spending and worth having, so.
my opinion's a little bit different than both of yours, just because looking at the projected high school tuition rate for next year, I think we're gonna have a big drop off from that. And I think if we're able to lower the taxes and the tax rate is better than keeping it stable. Like I think I don't think there's any problem with having a low tax rate. I think we're trying to avoid the big jumps upward.
Correct.
Big jumps
yeah.
downward, no one's gonna complain about it, I don't think. As long as
Well,
it
it
stays
has.
down there. If if it jumps down, then jumps back up, that might be a problem, yeah.
Right.
And so I don't have any guidance, just because I think this was gonna fall out anyway, in looking at our tuition rates, unless a lot of people moved into town or something like that, which does happen. So I expect to see something that's gonna be significantly less anyway, than last year. And
Just because of the high school tuition.
just that part of it,
But
right?
this group is not concerned with the high school. That's a whole separate thing. You two are, but the principal and
We've already
the
started.
staff.
We've already started to work on that.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's a piece of information that the board needs up front. You have discretionary spending that you can adjust based on the teacher request and the administration
Yeah.
request. But at the same time, you also need that information. And there's other pieces of information I think you're gonna need too, like you've got negotiations coming up with NESPA. So your budget in those lines is gonna remain flat because it's based on what you have now. But then you're gonna have to consider warrant articles. So there's lots of different pieces of information I think the board could use and then, make that decision. I do think there does seem to be a decline in your enrollments at the high school. What I can say is, I don't know what effect those declines are going to have on the tuition rate. Because if you have a significant decline in enrollments, your facility costs and everything else still remains the same, so your actual per student tuition rate could go up.
Unless it's made up by other towns.
Right, who aren't having that. So, I think it's wise for us to get that information for you. One thing I would ask during your budget discussion is for you folks to think a list of things you want outside of the budget, like your capital reserve fund balances, what your previous warrant articles were. So if you could think about that and get us a list, we can get that together with that to give to you all at once.
As you're talking about Co-Brown and tuition and students and everything, they used to give us the information of how many students they had altogether. We had the three towns who have a contract with them, but then we should
that
have
shows
a
up.
total which would, like what you just said, could affect us. Because if somebody else is sending more and we're sending less, it shouldn't affect us.
So that information's on your in and out report, and we just got the first one, so we couldn't
Okay.
put it in your packet.
Yep.
So if you remember your in and out report, that shows you what you have in and Northwood, in and out, in and out Northwood, Nottingham, Stratford.
For
and
their whole
Town.
total
It gives
population.
you their whole total. So that's part of your monthly enrollment report going forward. It just came out this week.
So does the board want to give any guidance, or do we want to just wait and see the budget, or?
I think we'll just wait. I don't, you know.
I prefer that they wait, that they're intelligent, professional people, and they're not going in with some big wish list. I don't believe
Yeah.
that's out of bounds, so. But if they did have a few wish list items, then they would put it down.
Yeah, that's kind of my opinion too on that, is that, you know, with assuming that the tuition rates does go down, and, you know, that may be the time to just think about some other things that maybe might be lacking in the school. But, you know, as I
Our
said,
job
make hay
to
when the
make
sun
sure
is
the
shining,
students
right?
here are taken care of, and our second part of that is to make sure the taxpayers are taken
Right.
care of, so. It's a fine line we decide.
Probably wasn't very clear for you guys at all, but.
Well, no, actually, I'm gonna say I don't agree. It actually helps clarify things for us.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't matter what direction to us the board wants to go in. What matters to us is that we have a direction to go in. So we will formulate a budget that is responsible and efficient, and we will present that to you for any adjustments and questions. And you can have all the information, then you can really make an informed decision, you know, about your warrants, what you currently have, you know, what your amendments will be.
Yep.
You'll have your preschool number,
So,
so.
I think that's great then, if you're happy, I think we're happy. I would think that maybe we should put this on our next agenda anyway, for the other members that might be here.
For the budget
Yeah,
discussion,
just put it on again, and it's probably something we're gonna wanna talk
Yeah.
about every day until,
until your timeline.
yeah. Yeah, and our parking lot, I guess.
Well, no, Mr. O'Sullivan gave you a budget timeline.
Yes.
So,
Yes, right.
right, we gotta go through, we gotta do our piece first, so we
Yep.
can continue the discussions, absolutely.
I did bring copies of the CIP if anybody wants that to refer to moving forward.
You guys wanna look at that tonight, or do it in the
That's
next
the same
meeting?
one we got last meeting? Yeah.
It was on your agenda, under the principal's report.
Oh, it was.
I think there was a request that we should bring
Skipped
that.
right over that.
Did you get a copy of what?
I saved it for the budget discussion.
I'll go.
I'll take a copy.
Oh, I see. I'm sure I have a copy somewhere already, but.
There's one piece of information, good, good.
By the way, those lockers look great. All right. You gentlemen happy with this discussion? We want to move on to the next thing?
Yes.
And ask one question, something like the upper playground update of the,
To the microphone.
oh,
Yeah.
an $80,000 expenditure slated for 2020 on the upper playground. I'm assuming you would approach that from a warrant article standpoint, or would you approach that because it's essentially an existing part of the school program and just grind it into the budget?
I think that's up to us.
Yep.
Right.
But that's a question I'm gonna want answered.
Yeah. I don't know the
That's
answer
not,
to
is
that.
that for this year's budget?
No, it's
Right.
for the year after, right?
Well, we are
Well,
doing.
we're doing the 20.
Doing the 1920 budget.
Yeah, how's your SIP set up? Is that FY 18, FY 19?
It's not clear.
No, it just says a year, it doesn't
Yeah.
split it in half.
I guess I was assuming that this was, because we haven't done the cafeteria ceiling yet, right? I mean, that's not, so this isn't 1819, this must be 1920, this column.
The second column would be 1920.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Michelle, can we realign that document to follow the fiscal year cycle?
Sure.
Because right now, we're in FY 19.
Yeah,
But
the
your
town's,
document's written on a different, yeah,
the town CIP, basically, so they run yearly, January to December, so that's what, yeah.
right.
Right.
We need to clarify that.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah, so, okay, so,
document.
so the playground update then would be 2021. Yep, all right.
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 So for this year, we need to
Right, we have lower
take care
cafeteria
of
ceiling
cafeteria ceiling, gym sound system upgrade, and computer replacement
replacement
plan.
plan, and the paving basketball court.
Oh, yeah.
The gym
So-
sound system is done.
The gym sound system is done.
Yeah.
Was that one of the things
Lighting
we
was
did?
done,
One of the things
lighting in the gym was done.
Yeah, that's all this year.
We did it.
Lockers were done,
So the sound system upgrade was part of
freezer
the
was done,
SRO
engineer study
shifting
we
money
did.
around between years,
No, it was
right?
surplus funds.
Oh, okay.
Computer replacement plan up, I'd be all done.
The computer replacement plan, I would imagine would
That's
be in
being
the,
done, so it's the 30
that would be in the
grand.
budget, I'm guessing.
So this
right?
fall, the biggest thing we got is the 30,000 for paving? I mean, if I'm looking at this now, 8, 9, all right,
So, I mean, I think, what, Mr.
I
are you,
understand your,
yeah.
Yeah.
the direction.
but do we want to talk about, do we want to have these things in the 2019, 2020 column? I mean, do we want to put these in the budget most likely, or do you think these are things we want to put in warrant articles?
These are, yeah, that's a discussion we'll have to have. These are all our wish list
Right,
That'll
that
be
we've gotten
direction
from
for
them,
the
yeah, with direction from.
principal.
right, okay.
Yeah, anytime we get a big thing over 15, 20 grand, it's almost a definite warrant article in this town, but we can make a decision. I mean, we can do that. If we need it, we need it.
Just looking at this, 2018 column paving front, with that, because it's not highlighted, and we haven't done
done
that,
it.
so does that need to move over to 19 or some other year?
I'm sorry, which part are you talking about?
In the 2018 column, paving front, $30,000. It's not highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't been done, so if that, everything else, if that's really the 17-18 year, then we need to carry that forward to another year.
That's true.
I actually think
But we're not done yet, 18, 19.
that 2018 is this year,
Okay.
Right,
right? Because you just did the kitchen freezer,
Right.
you just did the locker replacement, lighting in the gymnasium, the office engineering study, and I'm assuming without looking at an expense report that you did the computer replacement. So you're planning for the
That-
second column.
right. But
Yeah.
what Brian's saying is if we didn't do this year, we'd have to
Well-
push it somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah.
You may get some news tomorrow that will have you not doing that right now.
I remember having a
doing
conversation
it.
about it in the spring. so-
yeah. Yeah, that maybe we may want to wait on that for our next meeting, but,
Yeah.
because it may depend on the grant stuff that might be
You
coming
may be
up.
out there on Sunday with a 5-gallon pail of that tar, filling the holes.
Okay,
Like Mr. Roos sitting around relaxing in policy committee.
yeah.
All right. Do we have any committee reports? I know the technology committee did meet. Mostly it was a organizational meeting, trying to find someone who would facilitate it, which nobody wants to do. And we have to talk about what the goal of the committee is, you know, like set our mission statement and things like that are going to be upcoming, as well as the usual things of looking into software for the school and things like that. So that was, anything, am I missing anything there?
No, that's it.
Yeah. No other committees?
Budget committee hasn't met since last meeting, and neither has the clubs committee.
Okay. Policy committee, we already heard from. Facilities?
No, we haven't had any meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to schedule one, but I'm always waiting for, get together with Shane, so.
Old business, we have our parking lot items. School board newsletter went out on the paper, went out into the paper, I saw it today,
Yeah.
yesterday, which was
Oh, great.
great. A lot of these others are ongoing, I don't see anything here that needs addressing now. Student representative, did we come up with a plan for doing that?
Yeah, we got the flag, we got the pins yesterday,
Oh.
so we're planning to start inviting students October 4th.
Oh, wonderful.
October 4th, great,
There you go.
on the agenda too.
So we probably move that off parking lot.
So we're gonna add the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
Yes, we will have
To
to,
this meeting.
yes, we will.
Good.
Not a fan. Should we extend this to Copenhagen as well? I mean, I know, like, I'm sure you have plenty of good students to choose from, but it might be great to have a Northwood Co-Brown student here from time to time as well. Would that be possible?
We can, so you want me to tell you how we do it in one of your sister districts?
Sure.
Is we do have, well, we have 2 high school representatives, one's from Dover and one's from Co-Brown, so the cat's out of the bag, I'm talking about Nottingham. And once a month, those student representatives come and give a quick update to the board about the activities that are going on, in this case at Co-Brown. We usually let them go first, probably directly after the pledge. They give their update, and then we let them go and do homework and other things other than watch this. If you would like me to reach out to Headmaster to see if we can identify a student to be a representative to the Northwood Board, I'd be happy to do that.
I think so,
Fine.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it has to be representative, or like we can go back and forth, sometimes we'll have an elementary, sometimes we'll have a
Yeah, at the,
Co-Brown one or something,
I would almost recommend that you do both, maybe on alternate meetings.
That's, okay, yeah, that'd be fine.
Because I think the information that the Co-Brown students bring to the board is important for the board. And to give those athletic updates and what's going on for drama, and I see some real benefit to that, as I see benefit to the other idea
Yep.
too. So I think we could probably maybe work with Ms. Young and alternate that, so you have a Northwood kid once a month and maybe a Co-Brown student once a month.
I'd be all for that, you guys like that?
Fine. And the idea of putting them first so they don't have to hang
Oh,
around.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to do that to them.
Right. Although I might make my daughter come sit through a meeting
Those
sometimes.
three are gonna be jealous now, we're letting somebody else go first again.
Chances are they know them.
All right, great. Move on to our school board timeline. Page 99. 99 pages.
Too many, huh?
All right, we are in September. Review of board goals, parent notification, director information. Since budget preparation, budget development, I think we're on track for anything. Anything you think is missing here that we should add?
I have something in October when you get there.
We can look at October right now. Intent to bargain, budget preparation, superintendent evaluation, is that what you're interested in?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Not really. But on Monday, you're going to have that informal review. So you may want to consider going into non-public at the end of the meeting, and we'll all leave, and you can talk about that's what Nottingham did last night, without me.
Starting the superintendent evaluation of the joint.
Right, because on Monday, they'll have an informal discussion about how things are going, and da-da-da, and I'll be in there for that, but you might want to, get yourselves on the same page, or not.
Yeah.
So you might want to consider that, and then if somebody can just email me when you came out, and then no votes were taken, and when you adjourned, I can, or email Jocelyn,
Yeah.
put them in the minutes, all right?
If we do that,
If you do it.
all right,
The one thing I would ask to add to October
Yep.
is your preschool lease.
okay.
That's gonna be on your next agenda anyway.
The preschool what?
Lease.
Oh,
It's up for renewal this year.
Right, it's up every year, so I need to get you to propose a lease so I can bring it back and put
Right,
it in the
right, for the
joint
SAU.
board budget.
Yeah, right,
And so we have a history for you of what you've done, and we have a lease, so we'll put that on the next agenda.
We have tentatively budgeted 2%, which has been historical. rate.
yeah.
Right, but you still need to determine.
yep, so that needs to be signed, when's the lease up, or?
I mean,
30th.
yeah, it's up
Oh,
to
okay,
30th,
so-
but we need the money, we need the money.
Right, 'cause
We
you need
need
a budget- you need a budget at the
number,
SAU
we
level,
don't need the
right.
money, we need the number for the budget.
Yep,
So,
yep, let's add that there.
we'll bring that, I added it, and we'll bring that to your next meeting.
Okay, great,
Okay?
yep,
We got it all printed, ready to go.
excellent.
Will you have time, then when would you have to have that approved by the other two towns, or all three towns have
Right,
to
after the
approve it?
joint.
Well, you generally
At the-
approve it at the joint board, and,
Which would be in October then,
yeah, you've got time.
okay.
I'd like to, yeah, I just don't want to hold up our budgeting process.
No, we could do it even
So we did
earlier.
put a marker, and I'll explain to the joint board, you're going to get a draft budget for the preschool and the SAU on Monday night. We're not gonna talk about it, we're just gonna give it to you to walk away with, and we'll explain that we put a 2% marker in there,
Yep.
but that you're going to meet
That makes-
and decide.
Yep,
All right?
okay. Moving on to Mr. Ruth's favorite. Setting future agenda items, what do we got?
All right, well, it's appropriate, we were talking about the preschool. Being on the facilities committee, and I was talking to Amy and about the different places we have in the school, and I did bring up once that,
we have a lot of room in this building. It was scheduled for 600 students, we're now down below 400, so there may be some things around. And I said, that I wanted to go with the facilities and go around and see what's around. And Amy said, I've never really seen what the rest of the school looks like. I don't know if any of you have ever been down to the preschool and walked down the back hallway, down the tomb. I don't know if we've all been through the kitchen and see what type of equipment they use to feed the kids. I would think if we scheduled a meeting from 6 to 6:30 or 6:45 to take just a brief tour. We don't need anybody except maybe one of our two administrators to say, okay,
guys.
this room is Mrs. Jones and she does a third grade, and we'll just check around. And I think, I don't know, have you been to see, you're a new member, have you?
I've been through the open house. I haven't
Yeah.
been through the kitchen. I've been, I have a.
Well, we're gonna discuss the preschool lease, and you'll see why we're charging X amount of dollars, as that comes back to Northwood,
Yeah.
so.
No, I think a tour is. would
Yeah,
be-
it's just maybe 45 minutes, maybe if we said 6 o'clock, and then it started our meeting at, say, 7 instead of 6:30.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm just trying to think of the logistics of having a roving public meeting.
No, not a roving public meeting, we as a board would tour the facilities. I'm sorry if I thought of a public meeting, I think the members of the board would like to
Could call a
see all the
non-meeting
facilities.
Yeah, I guess maybe, I don't know if that would be a,
So, you want me to tell you how we've done it in different places?
Yes.
Would that help? So you just put it on your agenda, building tour from 6:30 to 7, board members. And then you have your regular meeting start directly after that. So you've posted,
Yeah.
you're not making any decisions.
yeah, okay, right.
You're not making motions while you're walking,
Well,
except for walking.
Oh, you're not- Yeah, but I mean, you're not supposed to be having discussions either, though. And again, it's gonna, it's
Well,
gonna
if
be,
you go on your
gonna be a
building tour and
quorum.
have your discussions later,
Yeah, there's gonna be a quorum of school board members discussing school board business.
We could do, we could split it up. I mean,
no, you just,
So
don't make
like
it so complicated. We're gonna walk through the building. If you feel as a chair that we should not talk, but an administrator will tell us everything, we could take notes and then we can come back and make a discussion.
That would make me feel more comfortable if that was the
All
case,
right.
yeah.
that's good, because you'll be following the hallway behavior expectations.
How many times would I get detention before you gotta call my mom?
We use progressive discipline, Mr.
Would,
We
Would a
had
tour guide be
discipline, they
available?
smacked us.
at 6 o'clock next?
If you'd like to do the building, I can go with you, and then I can do the preschool with you. I am gonna recommend that we use the preschool entrance, so you get the view that the parents and everybody else gets, rather than
The tube.
yeah.
Well, I think everybody, they should see, because they're.
We can walk in the
Walk back
preschool
through,
entrance, and we
walk
can
out.
exit the other way.
Yeah,
So-
okay,
that's good.
yep. You guys have spent a ton of money over the furnaces, you gotta see what the heck's down there.
All right,
Yep, thank you.
it'll be fun. Anything else for future agendas?
What time do you wanna do that?
6 o'clock.
6:15, and we'll be done, yeah. Because if we think it'll take 10 minutes, it's gonna take 40, and if we think it's a half, it's gonna take an hour.
If we're not,
Yeah.
if we're not talking.
Because we'll still need time to come
Yeah,
back.
especially we're not talking now.
Right, we'll still have to come back and review these, so we're gonna, 15 minutes,
Yeah,
10,
those are
15 minute
fine.
tour, I mean, nothing more than that. It's what we look at,
Yeah. That's gonna be tough.
Okay.
I would say,
So it'll take us a half-hour minimum to walk around
I'd
this.
say half an hour would be.
Minimum.
I just think about when I come into the building, I think I'm gonna be here for 15 minutes, I'm here for 2 hours.
Jocelyn did a great tour for me in July, half an hour.
half an hour.
Yep.
So 6:30, and then we don't have time to review? Bills and minutes.
I'll say 6:15, and then and say start the meeting at 7, see? You're saying a half hour.
Oh, start
Because
the meeting at
a
7.
lot of people don't come on time, right? Well, you make it for 6:30?
I can be here for 6.
All right.
You know, if I don't have-
I say we shoot for 6.
Yeah.
And we schedule the meeting start at 6:30. Then we'll just have to, I think if we don't wanna, I don't wanna be changing the meeting times around.
I agree.
You
Let's
know.
do that.
If we wanna go earlier, we could start earlier, we could do 5:45 or something like that. But I can't imagine it's gonna take
And
that
what
long.
day are you trying to schedule this for, the very next meeting, or in 2 meetings?
When would you like
Because-
it?
Because we have a policy meeting at 5 to 6 o'clock. So,
So we'll be done by
on
then.
the first,
When would you like to do it?
I think if you start at 6 o'clock, I'd say 6:15, but I would schedule, you don't want to change the time, so that's fine.
That's,
I think
yeah,
we should-
just because I think people are gonna, show up at 6:30 to watch. I mean, if no one's here, it's gonna be confusing. That's all.
And if we don't get back here till 6:45, I don't think that,
Of course,
there's that too many public, what are they gonna do?
we put a sign on the door.
Well, you
All right.
won't, you won't need to. You'll have other administrators here. They can explain that they're on a building tour and they'll be back. So 6 to 6:30, building tour, 6:30 meeting.
Let's shoot for it.
October 4th.
Yeah,
October 4th.
okay.
Any other future agenda items? Do we have a pretty, could we review this just to make sure we're on the same page? So we pushed back, and so we rescheduled our Blizzard bag review,
Yep.
our discussion of public hearing for that.
Draft presentation,
Draft presentation, we'll add to that.
snow days versus hours,
Yep,
preschool lease,
preschool lease is on there.
planning checklist will be in your next packet.
Cool.
Resolution info will be in your next packet.
NHSBA
Yep. that's-
discussion.
Yep.
And,
Budget discussion back on the next agenda.
And we're gonna have our student,
Next agenda,
Representative.
pledge and student representative.
we better be back here at 6:30 then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wear sneakers, we'll walk fast.
We don't need to do this. Well, I mean,
And
part of
then-
it is, I don't know, I think a number of us have seen a lot of the building. We don't need, like, the upstairs and the main areas here, we've seen. I mean,
Got a quick tour last meeting, actually, on a break, so.
yeah, I mean, maybe there's we could just skip to the non-popular parts,
Yeah, the kitchen and the preschool.
Stuff to get there, though, I guess, don't you?
Kindergarten all around down there, what's different than it used to be? So,
You guys tell me what you wanna see and we'll prioritize based on that.
And we'll be back
I
here
wanna
for
see
6:30.
the first level, that's down there, I wanna see the garage. Do you know where we keep the tractor?
Nope.
That we're gonna spend $45,000 on?
I don't.
Okay, then you'll see that, you'll see the preschool. I would think same thing, and for the other end of the building is, and we'll see if, the new fence is standard. All right, except for the whole second floor, I think we should see the downstairs and then across. We're gonna walk past a lot of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. If you wanted to do it like retail, we'd go in every single room and we'd look. It used to be the milk run, like they go to every store and just make sure that everything met standards, but we don't have to do that.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Well, a number of us were here last night and for the open
Yeah.
house already doing some of that anyway, so you should have come.
16 years, I never missed a night, but I'm not, in 5 more years, I'll have a granddaughter, I'll have to come probably. You guys got all the young kids, you should be here, you don't need me.
All right, our future meetings, we have a joint board meeting next Monday. Our extravaganza tour and regular board meeting is on October 4th, starting at 6. And then our next board meeting is October 18th after that. Then we'll have a break. Is there any closing public comment?
That's on, yeah.
Just in reference to the CIP, maybe you could send an updated one to Linda Smith. I know we're working on that on the planning board. If you don't mind. Thanks.
You sent to the town.
Yeah, if you forward it to me, I can forward it to her.
Thanks. Any other public comment? Any board member like to address the board this time? We'll close the public comment session. Is there a motion to go into non-public?
I'll make a motion to go non-public, and is this under C because
Yeah, it has to be under C,
discussing a
yep.
personnel issue?
Yep. So under
Second.
RSA 91:A, 3, 2C. We'll need to roll call in for that. Mr. McGuigan is yes. Mr. Ruth?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
All right. We'll go to
Anybody else is
non-public.
leaving?